We are in Saguaro National Park today, getting ready to do the Wasson Peak trail. As the name implies, Wasson Peak Trail goes up to Wasson Peak, which is about 4,800 feet in elevation. And the first 0.9 miles of the trail is on this old road constructed in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. And then at 0.9 it intersects with another trail, and eventually you kind of can zigzag your way all the way up to the peak. And it'll end up being about maybe just over a 7-mile loop trail if we do the whole thing, which hopefully that's what we're planning on doing today. I called it the Wasson Peak Trail, and it does go up to Wasson Peak, but technically it's the King Canyon Trail, and it's about 3.5 miles up to the peak. We're about 1.5 miles into the hike, the King Canyon Trail, and you can see Wasson Peak behind me. So kind of gently sloping upward. I think at some point it's going to start to get pretty steep, so here we go. So we just made it up to this little ridge line here. We've got another 1.2 up to the peak, Wasson Peak, but as we reach this ridge you can see Tucson on the other side sitting down in that valley. You can actually take this trail here, Camino del Cerro trailhead, and kind of hike down into there. But we're actually gonna go up and in another 0.9 miles connect with the Hugh Norris Trail. And then off of that trail, we'll take a little 0.3 gander off of it to go all the way up to the peak. But then we'll hike back down the Hugh Norris Trail around back to our car and do a big loop. We're not too far from reaching Wasson Peak. We actually realized that what we thought was the peak earlier was actually a false peak, because when we came around a ridge, we saw that there's a little bit taller peak hidden behind it. But anyways, along the hike we've noticed there's been a few places where there's these barbed wired off entries to what look like maybe an old mine. So kind of cool. Crazy to think that people came all the way up here to mine, like how they got in and out, and especially with anything that they were taking out of the mine. So, but they did. So we're about 0.3 from the top of Wasson Peak. It's just behind me. We got up here to where the King Canyon Trail and the Hugh Norris Trail connect. So we're gonna head on up to the peak. We made it up to the top of Wasson Peak. We're about 4,800, I think a little over 4,800 feet. The hike itself is 2,000, just shy of 2,000 feet of elevation gain. And even though it's not that high, I just finished reading Into Thin Air, so it's no 29,000 feet, but it still feels like an accomplishment to make it to the top. And it's actually our first summit of the Odyssey, so very exciting. Beautiful view up here. We just finished the hike, the Canyon Trail hike that goes up to Wasson Peak. It took us a little under 4 hours. We stopped at the top and had lunch and sat for a while. I think in total it was about a 7.7 mile hike. Pretty much up the whole way there, down the whole way back. On the way back we had a nice little surprise. We came around a corner and there was a big buck, a mule deer, following a doe. And they weren't that far from us, and they just kind of casually looked at us and then started walking again, and then every so often would stop and look at us again. So that was pretty cool to see the nature. But yeah, great hike, great day. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and stay tuned for more adventures of Live the Odyssey.